Welcome back. So now we are here. We have the information available in the service layer. Next is to build a repository layer, which is this one. And in the repository layer, do the magic that we are able to connect to this database. And in this database, we are able to store the information which the user is passing from the client here, from the postman, which is coming in our DTO. So this what we are doing now is called layered architecture. So we have a controller layer, we have a service layer and a repository layer. So this is called layered architecture. So we are following a layered architecture. With that we are making sure every layer has some responsibility. So controller layer has responsibility to take the request from the client which is coming via HTTP protocol in the URL. This service layer has the responsibility to do some business logic. Repository layer will have the responsibility to connect to the database and save information in the database. So let's go ahead and start with configuring our database. So we have multiple options that we can use the database. So let me tell you few things about it. So we have in real life what we have is a development environment where the developers are working. Then we have a test environment, then we have an acceptance environment, and then we have a production environment. So when we deploy, this is the software that we are building. This is the application that we are building, property management system. This is the Spring Boot application that we are building now. This is what we are building. But in real life, what happens in the project in the company that you are working, the same code will be deployed on dev environment. Then the same code, after developer has done the testing, everything is working fine, he will deploy the same code to the test environment. Then the same code will move to acceptance environment. Once in the test environment, let's say the tester says everything is working fine, then the code will move to acceptance environment. Here the business users will do the testing, and if everything is fine, the same code will be released to production environment. Which means what? Every environment should have its own database. So this is a database for dev, D environment. This is a database for test environment. Because if we keep the same database for dev, test, acceptance, then our dummy data will be shown to the production users, because this production, they are the end users who are using our application, end users, and they will put real data in this database. So this should have another database that is production database. Similarly, acceptance should have another database which should be acceptance. So we are making the same code, but the same code runs on different environment where the development happens, testing happens, then business approval happens with acceptance, and then it goes to production where the end users use them. So what we can do is we can use the same database. Let's say now in this course we are going to use MySQL database. MySQL. So that database, that this is the MySQL database server. MySQL database server. Here we can create multiple database. Dev database, test database, acceptance database, and production database. In the dev database, we will connect this application to dev, test will connect to test, acceptance with acceptance, and production with production. Or we can also decide to do for dev did for local development, but we are also this is DTAP dev test acceptance production, but there is also a local environment which is ours where we are doing local development now in our computer. So here also we can have another database as well, local. But for simplicity, I want to just show you that there is another simple database also called H2 database, which is a very simple database. We can use it for local development. And for dev test acceptance production, we can use MySQL server where we can create independent databases. And each database will have tables. It will have table, this will have table. All these databases will have its tables. And the tables what we define in our application. Okay. So now what we are understanding that at least we need a database, which is the H2 database to connect at, for with our Spring Boot application in local. So in the next video, we will try to set up this local database in our computer and that to an H2 database, and we will try to connect our application to that. So thank you. Let's continue in the next lecture.